Right, Wednesday, London open session, silver bullet, pre-market analysis. Alright, so far we can see that we traded to the low or near the low of that new week opening up here. Hello, don't you, Christian? Welcome. And yeah, that was like a classic bearish day. High near the open, distribution lower and close near the low of the day. Now we are having this smaller range so far. Pretty much consolidation since the London open session. Technically, it was just going sideways after this Asia protraction lower all day long. Afterwards was pretty much a sideways consolidation, not much else. So yeah, sell side liquidity resides here, relatively lows by the way, and potentially, or something that I still like on the downside is this Friday's low, June 12th, and this inefficiency here linked to the hourly chart. I like those. Still potentially as a downside objectives. Alright, so I'm trying to figure out what can I do during this session here, but right away it seems a little bit tricky because of this consolidation, sideways movement. We have some smooth buy side and sell side at the same time. I really like the lows here. Oh, maybe not as much, but they are clean nonetheless. Yeah, so near term buy side liquidity relatively highs are resting basically here. And we are just stuck inside this range, trading inside the range again. Will be interesting though. Quick look on the Nasdaq's suspension block on the lows. Still, I like this sell side and inefficiency on the downside for NQ. That's here is the sell side, and here is this inefficiency. That, in my opinion, this is still like the draw on the downside. Unless we start screaming aggressively higher, but I will see. I like the relatively lows here too. they could act as beautiful targets, beautiful draw on liquidity. Really smooth lows on Nasdaq, really smooth. Here the first presentation from yesterday, I can prolong that. We have the buy sell liquidity from yesterday also, that stays true near term. Yeah, I like the buy sell a lot. It's very smooth near term. It's very smooth. But the sell side is smooth as well, right? So it's not like it's very obvious where it will go next. It could go technically both. Practically, we need to see, watch and see. But yeah, overall for the day, I would still favor downside until the sell side here and this inefficiency. Same as on ES. That would be like my larger draw on liquidity, I would say. Near term, it could maybe reach up into this buy side here. If you go a little bit crazy. Well, I mean, let's see, let's watch, let's see, because it is what it is. So after all, trading inside the range, in terms of bias, I prefer lower, longer term, but near term or currently, I cannot state a one-sided bias because of the consolidation here. It really technically could go either way. Which is a little bit difficult, right? A little bit difficult. But because it's like this, I will focus on a very small little near-term liquidity pools, and I will try to read the price as we go. But right away, at least I have a expectation placed on me that it doesn't necessarily needs to be easy. All right, so I'm acknowledging that we are trading at the first presentation here from yesterday's morning session. And basically what we do, we are respecting the upper half of it, near term. So let's see if we can maybe manage to offer a measure of a displacement off of that. Or maybe we'll go right on through it. Let's see. Let's see, and let's just read the tape as we go. And hopefully get some ideas, some clues out of it. If not, then obviously it is what it is. So yeah, inside of that larger consolidation, we entered a smaller consolidation here on the 1 minute. 3 a.m. just started. Let me quickly take a look on the calendar for today. Yeah, Wednesday, no news. And tomorrow we have the major news for the day. Dollar index keeps screaming higher. Next objective here, which still allows for putting pressure on indices. So that's also why I like the sell side or longer term being a little bit more bearish. All right, and it's show time, so let's see. All right, so for completeness sake, this is the range on ES, this is the range on Nasdaq. Hey, ICD. Yeah, I mean, if I don't trade the long open session, then for sure I will. Yep. All right, so we are beginning the session with taking a little bit of sell-side liquidity here below relatively cool lows and tapping into the previous day's first presentation consecutive encroachment. I'm eyeballing it around here. Yeah, I mean, ES left very smooth buy-side liquidity pool with a small little fair value gap on the 15-minute here. And not gonna lie, I like this a lot. Nasdaq also has very smooth relative equal highs left here the same way. And it even has this pool of liquidity here. Very smooth buy-side liquidity resting above us. Both ES and Nasdaq. I like this inefficiency too. So yeah, because we are so extended to the downside since yesterday, because we are at the lows of the day, and we have that smooth buy sell liquidity, I kind of like, or I kind of prefer to see a run towards that. Just to disturb that buy sell liquidity, and then if it wants to go lower, then it could go lower easily, right? After disturbing the buy side. But yeah, let's see. So far we've taken the relative equal lows in here. We have a small little no volume imbalance there, small little fair value gap right here that could act as a potential bullish inversion. So yeah, I'll take the best case scenario buy side, which is here. Trading off of the first presentation. The bodies respecting the upper half of that first presentation from yesterday's 9:30 session. Yeah, but so far the turning point around here after running those relatively close is looking a little bit sloppy in my mind. A little bit, yeah, not that bullish necessarily. And this is the current range that we are dealing in. Equilibrium is here. So we haven't reached necessarily the discount yet. Yeah, I mean, ES also took out the relative lows here and he's trading slightly higher. Has this beautiful bicep that's very, very clean up there. I mean, gun to my head, that's what I like near term for this session. But yeah, all of these candles are very much overlapping all of the ranges, and that's a signature that I don't like to see. Because that's suggesting high resistance liquidity run conditions. So let's just wait and see whether we can spread the wings a little bit more. All right, so far I see two red flags. First of all, we are spending quite a long time inside of this inefficiency. We don't like to see that inside of those two. And all of the candles here are overlapping their ranges, which also is a red flag. The solution to that is to just wait for more information and wait until price will start moving more clearly. Yeah, I mean, all of this looks a little bit messy so far. All of this is a tight little consolidation, overlapping candles, spending much time in self inefficiencies. So all the red flags, check, 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 check. Within a session that's already not that easy because we have relatively good highs and relatively good lows, and we are part of a larger consolidation, which makes it just a little bit tricky, just a little bit difficult to get a very clear read. Beautiful inversion for value gap here in Asia, and by the way, beautiful delivery throughout the Asian session. So looks like they are pushing through the better moves during Asia now, and leaving us with some measure of slop in London. Yeah, I mean, it's really doing nothing so far. First 20 minutes, really doing nothing. The salsa liquidity currently resides right here, below this low. We engineered another pool of relative equalized buy side liquidity. Yeah, I mean, just keeps messing around, but look at the bodies on the 5-minute chart in regards to the first presentation from the morning session yesterday. They are perfectly respecting the upper quadrant. The wicks are allowed only to touch the consecutive encroachment, but the bodies are not allowed to close below the upper quadrant. That's potentially bullish. That is potentially bullish. Yeah, 26 minutes, we are just banging around back and forth inside a very small range, which makes it very, very difficult to navigate at the moment. Yeah, I mean, so basically I'm waiting for the price to leave this range first. Approaching the 3:30 London Open, which usually is the time for the price to make a move. Yeah, I mean, it's really taking its time in here. It's really a calm session so far, trying to chop out anyone who enters or tries to enter within this. I don't know, I'm very comfortable being on sidelines at the moment. I have some ideas, but with this price action here right now, every idea is on hold. Well, if the 330 doesn't take the price outside of this range, then the last chance will be the 350 to 410 macro, basically, to see some price run unfold around that time. Otherwise, we can just keep banging around like we did since the beginning of this long open silver bullet. All right, there we go. So we are poking the sales liquidity this low. So I need to be aware of this entire range now. So now we either continue displacing below this low and we keep on moving lower as a result, or we come back inside this range and that was just a false breakout. I'm watching whether this imbalance will stay there. This is pretty much a suspension block because it has volume imbalances on both ends. And it's a CB. And that's the last survival gap before we left this whole business, whole consolidation. So yeah, if it's bearish, I don't think we need to come back to it at all. If we do, I would view this as less bearish, to be honest. But now let's come back to this entire range that we are in. We just touched or tapped into the 50% of that range. So we are engaging a discount market at or below that price. So thinking about going for the buy sell liquidity here, we just met the minimum criteria for the discount. And now price would or could be allowed to trade higher potentially. So yeah, just for a good measure, if price would inverse this fair value gap here, that would be somewhat of an idea. All right, let's see. I mean, so far we tapped into this equilibrium of that larger range. We retrace back into this bearish fair value gap. That, in my opinion, yeah, it's not as bearish if we return back into it. And we are just hanging around. So if it really wants to continuously push a little bit lower, I would say it would need to do it from here. Otherwise, look at the bodies respecting the first presentation from yesterday. It's all hinting bullishness. So if you can close above this suspension block, I would use it as a bullish inversion for value gap. We didn't quite close above it here. We went to the high, we went above it over the week, but the body stayed inside of it, inside of the suspension block, inside of the fair value gap per se. Yes, but because there are volume imbalances, I'm using that medium. All right, so now we closed above it though. So I'm using the high of the suspension block as a bullish inversion for value gap, basically, potentially, and trying to aim for the buy side liquidity. Best case scenario is up here, where the bold blue line resides. Reasonable scenario is this high here. And that would be, I guess, enough. Let's see, sell side was taken out, damage was done. Discount market was tapped into. The body is respecting perfectly the upper half of that first presentation from yesterday. Even though we wicked below it, the bodies are all together respecting that very, very well. So I'm leaning on that being more bullish than bearish at the moment. And that's the idea. Also, the whole London open session was scooping sell side and sell side and sell side. Yeah, I like this reaction here. That's a very nice one. This is my break-even price here. 75% of the entire trade is here. So if we can reach that, I'll be moving my stop loss to break even and removing the risk of this position. So far so good, I would say. Let's see if we can get a follow through this high. A large candle to the upside. There is also a pool of relative equal highs right here. That's an additional little minor draw on the upside. So we should see price try to reach up into that. Small little fair value gap. A low, a high, a lower low, bullish breaker. So now, just now we enter the macro, 350 to 410. So that would be a great time element to make this run on the buy side and basically be done. So yeah, I mean, at this moment or at this point, coming back into this suspension block / inversion fair value gap would be or should be permissible, right? Because we end above it, coming back down into it would be permissible. Preferably we don't even come back to it, but I need to allow for that happening if it wants to do so. I feel like. All right, so we got attached to it, and that will be a key area or moment in price to see whether we can reject and send it higher. So yeah, I mean, no stress right now. If it's good, it's good, and it will repair price quickly higher. If it's not good, then obviously we'll see.